I was a sleeping bag guy for years, but as a side sleeper, I always woke up twisted, half out, and uncomfortable. Switching to quilts felt like freedom, absolute freedom. Lighter, roomier, no more claustrophobic zips. But it revealed a new problem, those sneaky drafts that ruin your night's sleep. And that kicked off a search for the next couple of years. And now I've found the system that finally fixes it for both solo or trips with my wife. No more cold nights. The quilt revolution and its hidden flaw. Now, when I ditched mummy bags, so sleeping bags shaped like a mummy, it felt quite liberating. Those things always felt like coffins, zipped tight, insulation crushed flat under my body, and could never get totally comfortable. Switching to quilts, basically a backless sleeping bag that stays open underneath you, was a massive upgrade for me. My pack got lighter, and for the first time, I could roll around and curl up and sprawl out without tangling up in my sleeping bag. It was really quite comfortable. But here's the catch. Every so often, a sneaky little draft would slip in. Not shivering, not hypothermic, just enough little chill coming in. There's a little crack in the back of the bag, enough coming in to wake me and take the shine off an otherwise perfect night. And if you've had those nights, you know that they stack up fast. On one trip, I was in a quilt rated to about 0 degrees Celsius. The night only dipped to 2 degrees Celsius, but I was still feeling cool because I kept getting these little drafts. Now, it's not dangerous, but I was just never 100% comfortable the whole night. Now, I still own all my old sleeping bags, but these days my kids use them when they go camping. They're warm, they work, but for me, going back to that restrictive bag, it's kind of unthinkable now. So the question became, how do you keep the freedom of a quilt without paying the price of a drafty system? The comfort evolution. Now, before we get to the solution, let me back up just a little bit, because when I started hiking, I didn't even have a quilt or an inflatable pad for that matter. Now, I've talked about this a few times in my weekly newsletter, so sign up to that down below if you want to find out more. But for the first decade, I used a basic blue foam mat along with my pride and joy, a Paddy Palin Gingira sleeping bag. At the time, I thought this setup was absolutely fine. I thought it was better than fine. I thought it was awesome. And it was fine for that fine young whippersnapper, that young bloke 34 years ago, but looking back, it was basically like sleeping on a footpath. Then, for a 26-day trip in 2004, I treated myself to a half-length inflatable Thermarest pad, and it was a game changer. Suddenly I wasn't lying on concrete anymore, and a few years later I upgraded to a full-length pad and luxury central. And from there, well, I've never looked back. Over the years, I've cycled through several sleeping bags and eventually to quilts. And when I think back now to those foam pad nights back in the day, I honestly can't believe I didn't get an inflatable pad sooner, but that's beside the point. Here's the truth. As you get older, comfort matters more, and comfort changes everything, because when you wake up rested, you hike stronger, you make better decisions, and you actually enjoy the day. These days, more than 30 years into my hiking journey, I am happy to carry a little extra weight for a proper night's sleep. Not too much, but enough to make the difference between misery and actually feeling restored. And that mindset is exactly what led me to Zenbivy, the Zenbivy ultralight system. Now, when I first came across the Zenbivy system, I thought the sheet idea was ridiculous. It's got a sheet for your sleeping pad in the wilderness. 2 years ago, I probably would have laughed at it. But then I saw how the quilt clipped in and fitted to the sheet, and that whole system wrapped the pad, and I became intrigued. Then about 12 months ago, a bit more, Zenbivy sent me their ultralight bed to try. This thing right here. It's warmth. Look at that. I love this thing so much that I went out and I bought a second one with my own money. One for my summer trip. Something a bit lighter, not as warm as that other one. That's how much I loved the system, because suddenly I wasn't waking up from drafts anymore. The quilt felt locked in, the sheet hugged the pad, and the whole setup felt like a proper bed. Not like a sleeping bag, not like a traditional quilt, but it felt like an actual bed, like I would sleep in at home, happily, mind you. They're spacious, they're warm, they're draft-free. Honestly, it was like turning the campsite into a bedroom. Now, I've used the system with different pads over the last 12 months. I've used it with a Thermarest Neo Air X-Lite. I've used it with a Nature Hike pad. But right now, I sort of keep coming back to the Zenbivy ultralight pad, which came with the system. It just fits the system better, and with the sheet wrapping around it, everything feels locked in and dialed in. Having said that, depending on the trip, I may still take the Thermarest with me on some trips where I want to save a few grams, but the saving's not enormous. The Zenbivy pad is really starting to grow on me. And if you sign up to the newsletter below, you can keep up to date with the gear that I'm currently using too, so check that out. And then there's the piece de resistance of this whole system, I think, and that's the pillow. Zenbivy's soft top pillow is hands down my favourite pillow. It's got an inflatable base in there, for structure, gives you a bit of structure on the foundation. And then you've got a down-filled soft top, which sits on top of the inflatable base. And then to go over the top of it all, you've got this very nice pillow slip. And it's actually, I think, my favourite part of the whole pillow is the pillow slip. That soft top's not far behind though, I tell you. Look, just look at that. Comfort central. I feel like going to sleep just sitting here right now. I really do. So good. Honestly, the slip and the soft top are what make it feel like a real pillow, not a balloon under your head. Now, I've tested plenty of other pillows over the years, but this one has now been coming with me on every trip for the last year, even when I'm testing other gear out as well. Sure, it's a bit heavier. It's about 70 or 80 grams when you take the soft top out, but the comfort is just unmatched for me. And then, of course, there's the down that makes up this whole system. Now, this year, Zenbivy introduced something called Muscovy down into its ultralight bed range. So into things like that 10 degree Fahrenheit minus 12 degree Celsius quilt here, they're now making this with Muscovy down. And you're probably saying, what does that even mean? Like, what's Muscovy down? Well, here's why that's different. I've got a couple of samples right here. Now, most down is graded on something called fill power, basically a fluffiness score. The higher the score, the more air the down can trap, the fluffier it is, and the warmer and lighter that it feels. Now, premium goose down you see in a lot of good quality sleeping bags and quilts is around 850 to 900 fill power. The one that Zenbivy using, 900 fill power down, you can see it there. And we'll flash up a little handful of it on the screen too. However, Muscovy down, it hits that same top tier, but at a lower cost. And what this means for you on the track is simple. It feels warmer because it fluffs up a bit more without adding weight. And it bounces back faster after you've squashed it in your pack. So it just retains its loft longer. So in practice, your quilt will still feel plump and warm on night 10 of a trip, not flat and tired like some can. And you can sort of see the difference in the size of the feathers there. Because after a brutal 10-hour day in rain and mud, what gets me through is knowing I'll crawl into a dry, warm, comfortable bed at the end. That's why my quilt always goes into a waterproof stuff sack as well. Inside my pack liner, sleep is non-negotiable. I always want to make sure that system is dry and comfortable at the end of the day. The light bed double. So that was my solo system dialed in for all the big trips that I go on with myself or with my friends, but hiking isn't always solo. My wife doesn't join me on the epic off-track missions that I head on, but she does love shorter trips where comfort is sort of baked into the trip. And that's where, well, the Zenbivy light bed double comes in. Now, instead of zipping two sleeping bags together like you might have done in the past, always awkward, always with that cold gap down the middle where the zip is, or sleeping in two separate systems altogether, this is one giant quilt that clips it into a fitted double sheet, like the single bed. You get two sleeping pads side by side, they slide in, lock together, and suddenly you've got a seamless bed when you're out in the wilderness. No sliding apart, no cold strip down the middle, and both pillows actually stay put because they're locked in with the Zenbivy system at the head of the sheet. It's basically like bringing a king-size bed into the mountains. Now, Zenbivy sent me their latest version of this at the start of this year, about 10 months ago, and the first thing you notice is the lining, this blue stuff here. They're using something called a 25D pongee fabric, and it feels like a real bed sheet. Not slick nylon, but it actually feels nice and soft and like an actual bed sheet. It's so nice, it really is. It's cozy and it's genuinely comfortable against the skin. Paired with the down they've got in this, which is an 800 fill hyperdry down. From memory, it's warm, it's water resistant, and it's perfect for temperatures that, go down to about freezing. We've actually used it. One of the nights we used it was almost 0 degrees. Beautiful. Absolutely warm. There's also a fixed double foot box. That's the part where your feet go, like at the bottom of a sleeping bag. So you can tuck in when it's cold. You can tuck your feet right in there, or you can kick a foot out when you're too warm and just have them sort of hanging out on the side. And the quilt itself is huge. This thing is 2 by 2.3 meters. That's 80 by 92 inches. That gives you space to sprawl naturally, like just spread out instead of feeling pinned. And for my wife, it's been a revelation. It actually feels like you've got the comfort of home when you're out on the track. And honestly, that's a big deal because when your partner enjoys the setup that you've set up for them out in the wilderness, they're going to want to come along. Now, would I haul it on a 10-day grind through the rugged southwest Tasmanian wilderness? I don't reckon. It's almost 2 kilos. Before you add in the sleeping pads, it's pretty heavy. But for hut-based walks, and even for something like Tasmania's 6-day overland track where I used to work, or family trips where comfort wins over grams, I'm going to take this thing. It's perfect. Now, we've only had the chance to trial it a few times so far, but we absolutely love it. And I can already tell it's going to be part of our family hiking kit for years to come. It just truly is. It's changed the way we share the trail because now comfort isn't a compromise. So that's been my journey from blue foam mats and basic bags to drafty quilts to finally a modular system that gives me the comfort of home in the middle of the wilderness. And here's the truth, for me, comfort is safety. Good night's sleep is like recharging your internal battery. When you're rested, you hike stronger, you think clearer, and you make smarter calls. Without it, even the best gear can't save you from bad decisions. But sleep is only half the puzzle. Even the warmest bed won't help you if you're starving hungry. So check out this video up here next, and I'll run you through some of my food tips to ensure that you never go hungry on the track again. Enjoy it.